People in our world have more words to describe negative feelings or emotions than they do to describe positive ones. It seems there is almost an infinite variety of words that we use that can describe the helplessness and misery that so many of us feel. The fact is that there are distinct classes of negative emotions, each of which can be resolved easily within different ways and consistently. I'm going to show you during the course of this CD program those tools and techniques that you will need to make a real difference. First of all, it is necessary to classify the different sorts of emotions that are common. I believe that there are 10 different classifications of emotions, and that if you think carefully, that any of the negative emotions you feel from time to time will fall into one of the categories. Here is the list of the 10. Number 1, fear. Number 2, hurt. Number 3, discomfort. Number 4, anger. Number 5, frustration. Number 6, disappointment. Number 7, guilt or regret. Number 8, inadequacy. Number 9, feelings of being overwhelmed, hopelessness or sadness. And finally, number 10, loneliness. I'll run through those again so that you can perhaps write them down. If you need a piece of paper, then pause this CD and join me when you're ready. Here they are again. Fear, hurt, discomfort, anger, frustration, disappointment, guilt or regret, inadequacy, feelings of being overwhelmed, hopelessness or sadness, and finally, loneliness. If you think carefully about why any of us have emotions, what they are signals that our brain gives us to stimulate us to react. In fact, most of our whole being is programmed, both consciously and subconsciously, to respond to this sort of stimulus. For example, if a child puts its hand in a fire, it feels pain, and hopefully doesn't do the same thing again. The pain is a signal to the brain, which is pretty powerful, and the child hopefully learns from the experience. The reaction to pain is hardwired into us, so that we tend to try to move away from these experiences as quickly as possible. In a similar way, emotions are there to push us in certain directions. Positive or negative emotions are not really good indications of the true position. What do I mean by that? Well, for instance, do you remember the first time you fell in love? The pleasure, the euphoria, the absolute certainty that your feelings were right? Now, I'm willing to bet that maybe, later on in the relationship, your feelings weren't entirely correct. Am I right? Equally, negative emotions are not always to be trusted. Often we feel a certain way very strongly, and our emotions point us overwhelmingly toward a conclusion, which may turn out to be utterly wrong. For example, how many times have you worried constantly about something which actually turned out to be quite different? Our problem is that emotions are so powerful, and often the imperatives that we as human beings use to guide us, we can spend excessive amounts of time being what many people called just being slaves to our emotions. Now, you must have heard that phrase. Well, the good news is that any emotion you feel is a signal for you to do something, that these emotions are not ends in themselves. For instance, when you feel fear, the emotion of fear is not an end in itself, it's a state of mind, but it is a signal to your body to take some form of action. We all know about the flight or fight response, where our bodies are hardwired to either run swiftly away from a dangerous situation or to stay and fight. All negative emotions are signals to us to take some sort of resolving action. Okay, The first exercise on this CD is to go away and write down the 10 categories of negative emotions, and then write down as many different negative emotions that you have felt over your life and put them into one of the 10 categories. Some may appear to fit into 2 categories, so for the purpose of this exercise, use your gut feeling to put them into the category in which they appear to you to fit the best. What we will do in the continuing part of this CD is teach you how to deal with each of these emotions in turn. The procedure is exactly the same with each of the emotions.